Morning. I believe it's Madam Auditor, though I have to say I don't have much information of what's going on. I think that's a question for the administration. There have been some scheduling conflicts, and we were informed that there was a mistake in scheduling. So we were originally told on Tuesday that I would serve as acting governor this morning for a few hours, essentially, and days later received information that had changed, that there was an error in scheduling. But we still feel it's important to bring forward some of these important issues today. So hi, everybody. Welcome to the Office of State Auditor. I am DiZoglio, your state auditor here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And as you may have heard, this past week, I was informed that I would be serving as acting governor. And that had actually occurred during a period in which I was working hard to wrap up the Convention Center Authority audit, which many of you have already received. That was a 45-page report. Took a lot of work from this office. I'm very grateful to my team for working to get that done and out to everybody for the sake of transparency and accountability regarding what is happening at the state's Convention Center Authority and regarding some ways that we can make meaningful progress. During that time, however, I was surprised with the information that I would be acting governor, and I was subsequently, due to that fact, peppered with questions, consistently asked all week long, every day, what my plans were for the moments that I would be able to serve in that role. And it caused me to think about some things that I had never really thought about before from that perspective, and I was informed that I would have the opportunity to potentially highlight some issues where we could make meaningful progress in the state of Massachusetts and identify ways to help people. And I thought about that opportunity, and I thought about something that we could highlight in these moments. And after seeing some of those opportunities and identifying some of those opportunities, I couldn't unsee the opportunities to make meaningful change in state government. Many of you know that I served as a former state representative, a former state senator, drafted legislation to impact meaningful change in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And then currently as auditor, I've thought about ways that we can impact meaningful change as state auditor. I had never previously thought about, from the perspective of the administration, ways that we could make meaningful change from that perspective. But I did have that unique opportunity, even just to think in that capacity this week, and I think that it was a good experience. And out of that experience, I did come up with some ways that we can make meaningful change as it pertains to transparency and accountability and preventing the abuse of taxpayer dollars across our state agencies and state government. As many of you know, we did just release the audit of the state's Convention Center Authority. That audit identified areas for improvement in our Convention Center Authority, but it also highlighted some areas for concern for all residents of Massachusetts and uncovered where there was unlawful activity occurring, where public records may have been destroyed, where the law was violated with respect to procurement processes, where taxpayer dollars were spent potentially inappropriately, and a very egregious issue that was found in that audit was the fact that a $1.2 million taxpayer-funded non-disclosure agreement was unlawfully executed to conceal allegations of racial discrimination and retaliation. That is absolutely unacceptable, and we need to take bold and meaningful action across our state government to prevent that type of abuse of power from continuing to occur, not just at the Convention Center Authority, but across our state agencies. Through the years, we have had opportunities to prevent the abuse of taxpayer dollars from funding these silencing agreements. We have passed legislation in the state Senate time after time I was the lead sponsor of a bill to ban the abuse of taxpayer-funded non-disclosure agreements, and commend my colleagues in the Senate for unanimously and in a bipartisan fashion, consistently and multiple times, passing legislation to ban the abuse of our taxpayer dollars from being used in this way, the way that we just saw the Convention Center Authority abuse our tax dollars in concealing these allegations. Unfortunately, that legislation never made it across the finish line, as there was tremendous pushback from leadership in the House of Representatives at the time, and there was tremendous pushback from the previous administration, the Baker administration, which had stated that they wanted to continue to be able to use taxpayer funds to fund non-disclosure agreements. No action was therefore taken, even after multiple passages of a bill to ban the abuse of our tax dollars in these non-disclosure agreements, which can cover up all sorts of abuses in state government. This audit identifies that years after these original bills were introduced to prevent these types of abuses, we are still having tremendous challenges in state government in this area. Years ago, you heard from me as a state representative when I broke my non-disclosure agreement and exposed that this building was utilizing these agreements and your tax dollars to cover up sexual harassment. That was for a 6-week severance package out of a $30,000 a year salary. Today, we have uncovered through our audit that was released yesterday that it was a $1.2 million taxpayer-funded non-disclosure agreement that was used to conceal allegations of racial discrimination and retaliation. How many more years are we going to continue not to take action on this issue? How many more years are we going to allow our taxpayer dollars to be abused in this way? How many more years are we going to allow victims of harassment, discrimination, and abuse to be silenced by powerful perpetrators in state government and our own state agencies using taxpayers' dollars? We don't need to continue to allow these abuses to occur. We have an opportunity to make meaningful, bold, positive change in this area. And I am bringing forward that opportunity for consideration today. And I very much look forward to working with this administration, with all stakeholders and advocates, with anybody who wishes to work with us to make that meaningful change. I have a proposed executive order, a draft executive order for this administration, for our elected governor to consider and to sign. I did put in acting governor as well, just in case the LG happens to want to also participate in this when she is acting governor, which I believe may be the case right now. But this is a draft proposed executive order that would further transparency and accountability and prevent the abuse of taxpayer dollars. With the stroke of a pen, we can help to make meaningful and positive change. And I would be remiss not to highlight that opportunity to this administration. This executive order states, whereas transparency and accountability are cornerstones of a democratic system of government. Whereas transparency and accountability, including through appropriate public disclosure, promote public confidence in government and can inform residents and taxpayers and others of the operations of their government and the actions taken in their names. Whereas the Commonwealth of Massachusetts employs more than 45,000 people who ably serve the Commonwealth. Whereas in any large organization, a subset of employees may enter into a good faith disagreement with their employer. Whereas those disagreements and their proper resolution may be of particular public interest when their employer is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and by extension, its people. Whereas the use of settlement or non-disclosure agreements by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and its instrumentalities can obscure from public view and therefore appropriate public accountability bad acts by state agencies, their managers, employees, contractors, or others. Whereas discovered in the Me Too movement, the abuse of non-disclosure agreements has been well documented to perpetuate abuse, silence victims, protect powerful perpetrators of abuse, such as Roger Ailes, Larry Nassar, Harvey Weinstein, and beyond. Whereas the abuse of non-disclosure agreements was found to aid in the decades-long cover-up of widespread and systemic child sex abuse by numerous priests of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Boston. Whereas the abuse of taxpayer-funded non-disclosure agreements in the Commonwealth has been found to obscure from public view unlawful acts in the workplace such as harassment, discrimination, and retaliation. Whereas the Commonwealth recognizes its responsibility to protect victims, prevent future abuse, and hold perpetrators of abuse accountable. Whereas the use of taxpayer funds to silence victims and protect perpetrators of abuse is unacceptable, unethical, and immoral. Whereas there exists an opportunity to effectuate meaningful, positive change within the executive department to protect victims, prevent future abuse, and hold perpetrators of abuse accountable. Whereas there is an opportunity to increase transparency, promote accountability, and prevent the abuse of our taxpayer dollars. I am asking that the administration continue, as it has been, to work alongside our office to address the concerns raised in our recent audit report and the concerns that have been being raised for the last several years regarding the abuse of our tax dollars to cover up inappropriate behaviors in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I look forward to working alongside of this administration, as I already said, on this draft language to ensure that the best version of an executive order may be potentially executed in the coming weeks. And as a former legislator, I know that you can come up with some great language to begin with, and that language gets worked on with multiple people and goes through a process. I am looking forward to that process with the administration, as it is the mission statement of the State Auditor's Office to make government work better. And our audits are meant to highlight areas of concern, not just to highlight the areas of concern so that we can see what they are, but also to help to recommend ways that we can improve upon current systems that may not be working as they could and as they should. And I think that this recent audit of the Convention Center Authority highlights some areas where we should be absolutely taking bold and meaningful action that absolutely need to extend beyond just the Convention Center Authority. This could be happening across the board in state entities. Without accountability, these agreements could be executed in various state entities. We know that at least 33 of these non-disclosure agreements were used in the House of Representatives. We don't know what they were for. We don't know how much was spent on them. And we are conducting an audit of settlement agreements, including the use of taxpayer funds across our state entities now. I will say that we have had a tremendous challenge getting access to all the documents that we need in order to be able to complete that report, struggling with delays from state aid entities getting us documents that we've requested. This is a way that we could assist in promoting accountability across all of these state entities where we certainly know we could stand to see some increased accountability in these areas. Thanks so much.
Madam Auditor, was your original plan to sign this and issue this yourself as acting governor?
I'm not supposed to have caffeine after 11, but we're going to make an exception today. Thank you. Great question. I know that that was an opportunity that was presented to me. I do not feel that that would have been a way to make meaningful and positive change, positioning an administration to come home to a signed executive order. It's my intention to partner with this administration. full transparency, since that's the theme of the conversation today, if this was the previous administration, I likely would have very strongly considered signing this proposal if I would have been acting governor during the previous administration, because the previous administration repeatedly and consistently opposed any and all reforms to the abuse of taxpayer dollars that are used in these non-disclosure agreements, after years of my attempting to work alongside of them to make meaningful change. That is not the case with this current administration. Our office meets with the governor regularly, and the governor has expressed wanting to work alongside of our office to make meaningful changes in the areas that our office has been working on. And it is my intention to work alongside of this administration, not position them. So we are proposing this as an opportunity for partnership with the Healy administration. We look forward to continuing our conversations with them. They have been speaking to us about our audit of settlement agreements, for example, and we have been looking for ways to move the ball forward alongside of this administration. And I believe that this is a great partnership opportunity to work with my sisters in service.
You saw the governor before you did this?
I did not get to, actually, because I met with the governor for about an hour shortly before all of these discussions started publicly being had about acting governor. So I didn't have an opportunity in that moment to get to discuss this. I'm very much looking forward to discussing it. This was something that was thought of within the last few days when it was discovered that I would have had the opportunity to be acting governor. And like I said, I had never had the opportunity to think about how to address these real issues from that perspective before. I had always thought about it from a legislator's perspective, from an auditor's perspective. But once I did challenge myself to think about it from that perspective, I did think that this was a great opportunity, and again, certainly want to work with this administration and very much look forward to discussing it as I do discuss issues that this office is working on with the administration.
You said that you've had a lot of challenges getting the documents you need for the overall look at NDAs, but is the governor or the agencies under the governor's control resisting giving you the documents and things you need to fully review and audit that?
In certain cases, there have been delays in getting access to information, and there have been disagreements about what is necessary to be able to complete the audit regarding the use of non-disclosure agreements, confidentiality clauses, and settlement agreements in general. We continue to work alongside of this administration, but I have certainly expressed frustration to the governor's office about some what I believe to be unnecessary delays in getting access to documents. As folks in the media know, public records law provides for about 10 days to get access. We've waited 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 months in some cases to get access to the documents that we have been requesting. But again, I have recently met with the governor, and she has indicated that it is her intention to assist in ensuring that we do get access to our documents in a timely fashion. She has asked that myself, along with our general counsel, that we reach out if we are getting delays on issues so that we can work together to make sure that the governor's office is in touch with those state agencies to ensure that we are not struggling as often with those delays.
Which agencies have been delaying?
General counsel?
Yeah, I don't think it's appropriate to, it's an ongoing audit, but we appreciate that what we're asking for is 12 years of documents. We do think it's unreasonable. This audit has been going on since July. We're still waiting for some documents, but we're finding ways to move forward with the governor's office.
So I looked at Michael because we are actually required by law to follow government accountability standards. Sometimes I very much would like to have conversations about these things a little bit sooner, but our office is legally mandated according to those government auditing standards to not discuss details of an ongoing audit that could compromise the integrity of the audit. I do want to clarify that will all be a matter of public record, and all of those delays will be part of the document, part of the process, and fully fully and transparently disclosed at the end of the audit when we are legally able to discuss the detailed findings of the audit report. So I'm happy to have that discussion with you, Matt, as soon as I am legally able to have that discussion.
Was there,
This proposal